thank you so much, Professor Nafis, for agreeing to be part of our webinar session. So with me now is Professor Nafis Alam, the head School of Business, Monash University Malaysia. Maybe we can have some introduction about Prof. Nafis. Can you introduce a little bit about yourself, Prof?
Thanks, Amirul, for having me. My name is Nafis, and I am currently Professor and Head of School of Business at Monash, Malaysia. I have been always a finance professor all my while. I have a strong interest in banking regulation, but in the last 6-7 years, I have moved into the fintech domain, and I champion talking about regulation as well. So my key area of focus of research is to look into fintech regulation, at the same time to look how fintech can be utilized for a better need, especially looking into the financial inclusion. In that capacity, I also work with a think tank at Just Business School, Cambridge University, where I am a research affiliate at Cambridge Center of Alternative Finance, and we work on global reports to look into the aspirations of fintech, especially into the financial inclusion, especially into regulatory aspect, and we contribute these reports to the general understanding of the public. Most of my work has been on the area of fintech regulation in the last few years, but at the same time I also champion Islamic finance, and I also do my research in the area of corporate finance.
All right, yeah, thank you for the introduction. And then I can see that you cover a lot of finance stuff, and then now moving towards financial technology or fintech. So that's why we're having this discussion to also share with our audience on what is the fintech outlook. So to our audience out there, the topic that we'll be covering for today's webinar session is for us to take a look at the digital lending and also investing landscape for fintech, and then what are the global trends and the opportunities out there. All right, Prof. Nafis. So I understand that you work a lot on fintech space these days, right? And then you have been also be the advisors on corporate finance as well. So can you explain briefly about the current fintech landscape globally?
Sure. I think fintech is one of the fastest growing industry in the financial services sector. If I just go with some of the numbers, Amirul, in terms of the fintech startups, including big, small, and even the big tech aspirations into the financial services, we're talking about over 26,000 startups or 26,000 entities which are operating globally. And this is also one of the sector which is driving the investment coming from the VCs, as well as from the private equities, as well as from the global investors. In fact, last year alone, if I look into the numbers, close to $210 billion was invested in the fintech. In fact, it did slow down in the first half of 2020 because of the COVID, but 2020 was a bad year for fintech industry because of the COVID concern, especially for investment when market was reeling. But the 2021 was also one of the best year, I can say, in terms of the fintech, and where every other sector was still struggling to come out of the COVID pandemic. Fintech was really flourishing, and it has to be, if you really look into that, why. In fact, I always say that one sector which really benefited from COVID was fintech. In fact, the digital payment space, digital lending space has grown exponentially. If I just look into the e-commerce transactions, it is like expected to reach 4 trillion by in 2027. And if we look into cross-border payment, especially talking about cross-border payment system, we can look into that close to $156 trillion will be expected to go by the end of the year. So you can see overall it's a growing industry. If I just look into the overall market value, it will be somewhere in the range of 300 to 320 billion by the end of the year. Different expectations, but industry is on track to add more. Most of the companies which are looking into are moving, especially the payment is driving it. In fact, we look into the overall fintech verticals, payment will account for close to 40 to 45%, and the transaction value, if I talk from the last prediction done by Statista, it is expected to reach 10.5 trillion by 2025. So we can see that it is on an upward trend, and it's not only the end; it's the innovation keep on happening, Amirul. Some of the other segment which are taking a lot of initiative, BNPL. Even though I'm big critic of BNPL adding a pressure to that, but this is one of the segment which is really driving the industry at the same time. So innovation will keep on happening, investment will keep on pouring. Yes, there has been some setback. If you include crypto as part of the fintech industry as well, there has been a setback, and this has been forthcoming, and I have been talking about in a lot in terms of the crypto industry. I do appreciate so far it is regulated, it's good enough. So there has been some setback, and that has again led to some initiative in terms of regulating the industry, for example. And the other area, talking about some of the numbers, the other area which is going to really push up in the next couple of years will be the RegTech segment, regulation of technology, which cut across fintech verticals at the same time. And that particular segment of fintech is expected to have close to 20 billion of market value in the next 4 to 5 years. So I hope you get a feel that it is a very fast growing industry, and it can expect to attract more and more investment in the time to come.
Okay, that's interesting. And from what you're sharing in general, the fintech industry thrived during the pandemic because of the nature of the industry itself, that are mostly on digital, right? And then it's very interesting that you also highlight about the rise of the other segment of the fintech industry, which is the regulation tech or RegTech. So, do you think, or do you foresee that there will be a lot more segments that will be coming up from fintech industry because of this upward trend?
I think innovation will be the driver for the overall fintech industry. I think in the last few years we have seen a lot of development, whether we're talking about NFTs or tokens or stable coins, and talking about other verticals in terms of your credit scoring, alternative credit scoring mechanism and all. So this is a segment which will continue to innovate, and innovation is going to drive that. So definitely I'm looking forward for more innovation. So far, the innovation is making the financial services industry more attractive, more favorable to the community. And we should not forget that we are not only looking at the alternative financial channels, but at the same time, we are trying to increase the financial inclusivity. So innovation, which is going to drive the inclusivity, will be the focus. And I think there has been a push not only by the regulators, but also by the investors to look into innovative solutions, which will continue to happen in the existing verticals. But I can also see that many more segments or many more innovation in the existing segment will continue to follow in the next couple of years. Amirul?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And then it's very interesting that now the fintech players are regarded as the alternative players, right, for this financial industry. But I'm looking at the upwards trend. I think in a matter of years, or maybe the next decade, it will be the main form of financial, because now people are moving forward and moving towards digital banking, and perhaps the alternative words can be dropped off, and they will be the main players. Okay, that's good. And I just want to relate back on your explanation previously about the current fintech landscape. So, can you also share what are the correlation between the global financial landscape with the regional and Malaysian fintech scenes? Because we want to bring it back to the regional scene, especially that is relevant to Malaysian market. How are they related and interdependent with each other?
Sure. I think before we focus on the Southeast Asia or Malaysia in particular, I also want to highlight here that fintech has the biggest opportunity to grow where you have more financial exclusion, and this will only happen in the developing economies or underdeveloped economies. So in most of my discussion with the stakeholders, industry stakeholders, or in my write-up, I always talk about that Asia, including Southeast Asia, as well as the MENA and Africa region, will be the forefront of fintech development, because wherever you have an opportunity to of target market where there is a opportunity to provide innovative solutions, and when there is a need, definitely that particular region will grow into that, and different segment of fintech will have different opportunity to grow. For example, lending and digital payment have more opportunities to go where people have less access to the formal channels of payments or formal channels of obtaining credit or lending opportunities. So definitely yes. Now, if we really focus on Southeast Asia, the region which we are based currently in, we can see that there are different level of development. I always consider Singapore to be a forefront in that sense, and it's good to see the MAS initiative, Monetary Authority of Singapore initiative. In fact, they are a game changer not only for the region but also globally, especially if you look into the regulation, the sandboxes initiative, or working with the startup community has been exponential better, and that has been the push of Singapore. But if we really focus on Malaysia, I will see Malaysia was a bit late to catch up, but now they are catching up fast in that sense. In fact, we are talking at the right time, Amirul, because only a couple of days back, Fintech News Malaysia has came up with the Malaysia Fintech 2022 landscape report, and we found that now Malaysia is home to around 294 fintech companies, which is almost a jump of 27% compared to last year. In terms of the verticals segments, I do not see big difference with the global trend. Payment is also the biggest player in Malaysia and in the region. In Malaysia, almost 1/5 of the total companies are in the payment segment, followed by lending, which is around 55 companies. E-wallet is the third, and InsurTech is the fourth. Again, Malaysia also really gained a lot from COVID in terms of the digital payment. In fact, the recently published report of my global COVID impact on the fintech published by the CCAF, we found out that Malaysia was one of the emerging areas where most of the vertical has gained a lot, and a lot of new players have emerged, and a lot of players have even able to attract funding. And some of them you would have seen recently that because of their expertise in fintech, they were also able to go into the digital banking licenses. And these are not new players, they have already a fintech experience. We're talking about the C-Money, or we're talking about the Money Match, we're talking about Kenanga, Boost, and so on. They have already have some experience. So I think in the last year, Malaysia has been really looking into that. We also need to understand that the mobile banking transactions or internet banking transaction has always been on the rise in Malaysia, and Bank Negara is also promoting this initiative because we want to be a cashless economy. At the same time, we want to make sure that the people are aware of it. But one of the things which I want to be distinctive, if I talk correlation or comparing with the global thing, is that we still have a lack of awareness from the general community in terms of what is fintech, or what fintech can look into, or what are the opportunities in the fintech world. In this part of the world, we tend to talk more fintech about basically for cryptocurrency or maybe just for the electronic payment, digital payment landscape. But we need to understand that fintech goes beyond that. Lending is one area which definitely Malaysia need to pick up. I think they are picking it up on that scale. But I see that there is more opportunities coming out of the lending that I will say the wallet segment is getting crowded up, and I think it will lead. It needs some level of innovation now in the Malaysian segment. Some of the segment like credit rating, alternative credit scoring, or homegrown RegTech or robo advisory, we still do not see that much of impetus. So some segments are very underdeveloped or have no presence in Malaysia. But these are the segment where we have more and more opportunity for Malaysia and the region to pick up. I think the next couple of years will be the key driving timing for Malaysia to grow its fintech aspiration. And I think recently with the appointment of Encik Suhaimi as the assistant governor at BNM as well, who champions fintech in the country, will give some sort of impetus to further drive the fintech innovation in the country. Amirul.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And then we have also been, you have been covering about fintech, and then you look at as a driver based on the innovations that are happening, right? So maybe just a side question, from the way you see fintech as an innovation, right? Is it the future of money, or is also a mode of bringing social change? Just want to pick your opinion on this.
Yeah, I think it will do both. Finance as an industry has always been evolving. You just take the last decade itself. We have started with cryptocurrency, and we only had one or two cryptos in the beginning, and then how quickly we moved on from crypto to other alternative forms of tokens, as well to look into NFTs and so on. So finance is an industry which will keep on evolving, which will keep on developing, and fintech gives you that opportunity, especially with the digital world. I think you need more and more innovation out there. The one thing which we did not talk about earlier was to talk about CBDC, central bank digital currencies. We always talk about the cryptos, but we did not talk much about that. So money, as how we have known money, will slowly disappear. We are slowly moving toward the cashless world already. And even for at the moment, Malaysia or most of the central banks are more looking into the wholesale CBDC or cross-border CBDC. But I think moving forward, we will be looking at more innovation into the retail CBDC, for example. So yes, there will be innovation happening at that point of time. The second thing is that if you really look into fintech, yes, one of the reasons why fintech gained a lot of importance from the regulators, from the investor, is to look into capturing the unbanked community, right? And that's the biggest aspiration. I always give a analogy between Islamic finance and fintech. The reason why, because Islamic finance, apart from being a religious finance or religious banking aspiration, it was also an alternative banking channel, right? Alternative financial channel, where irrespective of religion, you have innovative solutions in terms of investment, in terms of financing, in terms of lending, and so on. And it really gave an opportunity to develop new products and new services. The same way, fintech is also an alternative financial services. It's nothing to do with just the technology. Yes, technology is there, but who you are targeting. You are looking into robo advisory, where you want to automate a whole advisory or investment portfolio. You are looking into digital currencies, which you are looking into more secured and more cryptic level of transactions. You are also trying to reduce the usage of the paper-based money or the physical transaction, and that can go a long way of implication in controlling money laundering or terrorism financing and so on. So there is a bigger ambit of fintech. Innovation is the key, and that innovation is tagged along the financial inclusion and to bring social benefit of it. Imagine, we have in Malaysia as well rural areas where you do not have presence of branches, and we are looking into transfer, and we also looking up a lot of Malaysian population moving out of the country, especially there are lots of brain drain in recent times. So we're talking about the remittance, we're talking about the cross border payment and so on. So these are providing you opportunities to innovate and look into that. The good and bad side of it, we need to be very careful in that, because the end of the day, any innovations has to be countered with the regulation, because sometimes, as a general practitioner, whenever we talk about regulation, people always talk about that regulation is here to stifle the innovation or slow down the innovation. But no, regulation by central bank or by the policy maker is to protect both the players as well as the consumers. That's the bigger aspect of it. So yes, in order to have a flourishing industry and in order to achieve the social benefit of it, we need to look into that, because recently we have seen that many unregulated exchange has gone bankrupt. Many of the scam related to cryptos, the scam related to the online lending platform as well. So if these are not regulated, there will be challenges as well. So if I want to summarize in that sense, I will see that with the investment coming in, with the technology taking a big role, and also the role of the big tech players, those who are tech experts now venturing into the financial services, I think this space will continue to innovate. This space will continue to grow, and end of the day, financial inclusion and social impact will be the key driver of future innovation in the fintech segment. Amirul?
Yeah. Okay, all right, yeah. It makes sense, because I think whatever innovation or any kind of tool that we're using, it has always been serving as double-edged sword, right? So we need to really see what are the pros and cons for each innovation and the technologies that we're using.